This is Closereads.
A philosophy podcast with Mark and Wes.
I'm Wes Alwan.
And I'm Mark Linsenmeyer. How'd y'all like some Derek Parfit? You like Derek Parfit, don't you, Wes?
Yeah. He's like dessert. It's like a good parfait.
I actually don't remember.
Parfait.
I don't remember how his style was, whether it was onerous when we read Reasons and Persons back in only 2021, not that long ago.
No, he's not onerous. It's analytic. I mean, he's clear and he's a genius without a doubt. I can't remember if it's going to get tiresome in the way that analytic philosophy can get tiresome, or overly in the weeds or overly logical. You know, as you know, I have mixed feelings. We're reading Closereads right now for PEL. She's analytic, but there's something I love about her style. Absolutely love it. I guess I can't really say that about any other analytic philosopher that I can think of, that I feel that strongly that someone is a great writer and stylist in that tradition. But
what about Nagel?
Nagel's great. Although I did write that scathing review of one of his books, more recent books, which I really regret. Yeah, I was probably right about the points I was making. So the one where he argues for teleology, something I'm actually more sympathetic to now. But yeah, anyway. But I'd have to go back and look at Nagel, and I was a fan of Searle and a fan of Nagel, but I'd have to go back at this point and remind myself, look at the prose and see how I feel about it. Every few years it seems like things change, I think, for me.
Well, I know his Immortal Thoughts was one which has what it's like to be a bat in it, and Moral Luck and other famous essays. Absurd, something on the absurd, I believe, was one that I would recommend to students if they wanted, if you could pick any philosophy book sort of to start with. I just felt like it read so nicely and did not require any prior knowledge of anything, of any other literature to approach, and seemed like it was kind of my example of, as much as I enjoy reading this historical stuff, just a person in the present day, more or less, talking to you like a person, but who's really smart and who has studied all this stuff, I think might be it's the most like having a professor who is talking to you.
Yeah. I want to read, by Nagel, because Closereads refers to it a lot, the possibility of altruism, which is Nagel's 1970 book. That seems to be one of the big important works in 20th century analytic ethics, and feeds into a lot of these related discussions. Yeah.
So if people have not gathered from the context here, we have started on Parsec Examine Life a run of 20th century, right, more or less contemporary ethics. And we had recorded on Philippa Foot, and she refers to a lot of other articles, which I tried to check out. And this was one of them. It's called Prudence, Morality, and the Prisoner's Dilemma. It's by Derek Parfit. It's from 1978. So the big book that we read by him, or some of it, about personal identity, he does go on to talk about ethics in that. We didn't actually read that part. It's from 1984. So this is a little before that. I see 26 pages on the PDF. And it looks like it's not the case that half of it is taken up by citations and footnotes. So yes, it is that long. There's a lot of charts and other indented things that look like logic. I see on page 4 here, there's some sort of a tree that he's written. So, sometimes those make things fun. Sometimes those make things dry. I do not see any phi's or deltas or other Greek letters or logical symbolism. So maybe we're okay. Well, let's dive in. Please go ahead.
Okay. there are many theories about what we have reason to do. Wow, he start really zoomed out. See how quickly we zoom into a chart. Some of these theories are, in certain cases, directly self-defeating. What does this show? Consider first, okay, this is section one. Consider first the prisoner's dilemma. You and I are questioned separately about some joint crime. The outcomes would be these. Uh, you confess and I confess, and we each get 10 years. You confess and I keep silent. I get 12 years. You go free. You keep silent. I confess. I go free. You get 12 years. You keep silent. I keep silent. Each gets 2 years. It will be better for each if he confesses. All right. So just to remind listeners, if both of us confess, um, we each get 10 years. But if there's an asymmetry, right, then one will go free and the other will get 12 years. So if we're thinking about ourselves collectively, each of us confesses, we get 10 years. Um, this is so whatever the other does.
I
But if
sorry,
both
I think the
confess,
important yes, right. I think the important thing is that
sorry, no, I'm explaining this wrong. Yeah,
if I rat you out and you just remain silent, then or I say we did this thing together, but I basically turn state's evidence on you. So I do confess, but I'm in confessing, I'm also convicting you, and you just don't say anything. Then you will be the one who goes to prison, and I will go completely free. If neither of us rats the other out, then we'll both get 2 years. So that's not as good as going free, but at least it's not as bad as if we both turn on the other one, then we'll both get 10 years.
yeah. When he says it'll be better for each if he confesses, um, right? It's better for both of us if both of us keep silent. Obviously, then we only get 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
But um, it'll be better for me than for you if I confess, whether or not you confess. Let's put it that way.
No,
I mean,
or
look at the chart
wait,
again, right? So if I
it's better for me
confess,
if it's better for me if I keep silent, but only if you also keep silent. If you
right?
don't keep silent and I do confess, then it's the worst possible outcome for me. I get 12 years, you get nothing.
Um,
So we want to trust each other is the point. But if we can't trust each other, then it's better just to confess. And then either I'll go free because you remain silent, or we'll both get 10 years, which is at least not as bad as 12.
why is he saying it'll be better for each if he confesses? This is so whatever the other does. Um, right? So yeah, so I was right. I confess, assuming there's an asymmetry. If I confess, it's better for me regardless of what you do. Um, right? Because I'd get 10 years instead of 12 years, or I could even go free if
All
you
right,
keep
so I'm
silent.
reading this wrong.
This fucking chart, we're already tripping up on the chart.
Right. If I keep silent and you confess, then I get 12 years, you go free. So it's like so it's not a matter of ratting each other out. It's a matter of uh, am I going to admit my part in it? If I confess, I'm not automatically turning on you. So this is not what I thought it was. I thought the prisoner's dilemma is normally put to me as, do you turn on the other person? And this is just, do you uh, confess your part in the
Right,
crime?
right. Yeah. Um, yeah. But the idea is basically the idea is if we um if we each do a different thing, we are oh my God.
Should we just start this whole thing over?
We better off if we both stay silent. But if one of us
On
is
this
not going
on
to,
this podcast, we
if
better off if we both stay
but if one of
silent.
us is going to confess, then it's better for us both to confess. I don't know. This is embarrassing. We should know. We should be able to explain the prisoner's
Let's
dilemma at this point.
let's read his description.
All right.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, it will be, as you
Uh,
said, it will be better for both if he confesses. And
better
interestingly,
for each if he confessed.
each, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. And this is an interesting time capsule in that there is a footnote that says he means he or she throughout.
Hmm.
I feel like there was a window in which you might feel the need to put that and not just have it linguistically assumed, or that you aren't just saying they or something. Of course, it's 1978. This is so whatever the other does, but if both confess, that will be worse for each than if both keep silent. Okay, so if both keep silent, this is a little strange, right? Each will get 2 years if we just let the evidence convict us. But if we both confess, then we get 10 years. That seems counterintuitive. That's why we're reading it wrong, because it seems like, hey, if you just confess, you'll get a lighter sentence. But no, because they want to simplify have a shorter trial period, whatever. Plea deal.
Yeah, and I just thinking about I've probably said this wrong at some point in this podcast already. I probably said something like if we both confess, we each get 2 years, which is not
Right.
right. But
Exactly.
if we both keep silent, we each get 2 years. Anyway.
Yep.
Just don't listen, just don't talk to the cops. Ask for a lawyer. That's really all you need to know. uh all right, you want to keep going?
Let us simplify. It will be worse to eat for each of us, for each, if each, rather than, oh my God, it will be worse for each if each, rather than neither, does what will be better for himself. One case occurs when, positive condition, each could either, one, give himself some benefit, or two, give the other some greater benefit. And, negative condition, neither's choice would be in other ways better or worse for either. When the positive condition holds, the outcomes would be these. All right, I'll try so I do, and you do, each get the lesser benefit. So it's whatever the thing is, confessing. But if I do, and wait, sorry, I do action one, and
Or
you
let's
do
just say if we both do action one, we
Okay.
each get the lesser benefit.
Yes.
But if there's an asymmetry, if I do action two and I don't know. I thought I was going to be clever here. I thought I had it
and you,
clever.
and you do
If I
action one,
right.
then I
Or
get no
vice
benefit.
versa, then neither of us get the benefits. But if we both do action two, we get the greater benefit. So lesser benefit if we're aligned, either by doing action one or action two. But if there's an asymmetry, one of us wins out big and the other gets screwed big,
Yes.
right? 12
Yep.
years freedom if there's an asymmetry, or yeah, okay. This is kind of reminding me of like Mendelian like genetics charts, percentage chance of having an offspring. Then anyway, all right.
Sure. Go ahead.
If we add the negative condition, the diagram becomes if we, so just summarizing it, if you and I both do what's third best, sorry. Oh my God. If
If
you
we
and I
both do
both
action
do
one.
action one, we get what's third best for both of us. If we both do action two, we get what's second best for both of us. If I do action two and you do action one, I get what's worse for me and best for you. If you do action two and I do action one, I get what's best for me and worst for you. So I can win big by doing the selfish, uncooperative thing, but only if you do the altruistic thing. If we think of being silent, or well, actually, what are we thinking of as altruistic? All right, I withdraw. I retract that comment. No, I retract it. I want to confuse things. Let's just soldier on. Are there any more charts?
Oh, yes. Uh, okay, part of the negative condition cannot be shown in this diagram. So again, the negative condition is neither's choice would be in other ways better or worse for either. Uh, there must be no reciprocity. It must be true that neither's choice would cause the other to make the same choice. It will then be better for each if he does one rather than two. This is so whatever the other does. But if both do one, that will be worse for each than if both do two. So it seems like it was easier if we were just keeping one as confessing and two as not confessing. I mean, it's supposed we're trying
Yeah,
to
we're
get
talking
a
about
general scheme
numbers.
of this, but it's really hard when you don't have an example in mind.
Yeah.
When could there be no reciprocity? Only when each must make a final choice before learning what the other chose. This is not common, nor would ensure the negative condition. There might, for
Nor
instance,
would
be,
it. Nor
nor
would it
would it
ensure.
ensure the negative condition. There might, for instance, be delayed reciprocity. Either's choice might affect whether he is later benefited by the other. We can therefore seldom know that we face a two-person prisoner's dilemma.
Um, we can often know that we face a many-person version. One can be called the Samaritan's dilemma. Each of us could sometimes help a stranger at some lesser cost to himself. Each could, about as often, be similarly helped. In small communities, the cost of helping might be indirectly met. If I help, this may cause me to be later helped in return. But in large communities, this is unlikely. It may here be better for each if he never helps. Just say to be a free rider, to think of Hume and the other things we've been discussing. But it would be worse for each if no one ever helps. Each might gain from never helping, but he would lose and lose more from never being helped.
This is
Guys,
why these variations is why I read this far, these first couple pages in here. And so if you're wondering after we just stumbled over the first page in those charts, why I okayed this for us to read is because I found this fascinating because I'm familiar with the prisoner's dilemma, but not these other ones. The Samaritan's dilemma, and then we're going to get to the contributor's dilemma. So yeah, we'll see if we can make sense of them.
and
I mean
I
that,
mentioned Hume here, right? Because
yeah.
the moral fabric depends upon on us in general doing the right thing, all of us, right? Being just, for instance. But there are many cases in which I could be unjust and, from a consequentialist perspective, cause the better outcome, but I'd be violating some law or maybe even violating someone's rights. And it's not going to cause society to come crashing to the ground, or I might even be a free rider, right? I might benefit off of society without uh, making my contribution. But then if everyone thinks like me, then it does all come crashing to the ground, which is in ways is the background of Kant's maxims, right? If everyone acted like me, then me trying to uh, be a free rider wouldn't actually be advantageous to me. There'd be nothing to free ride off of. All right.
Yes, we can see where this is going. I don't know if the Philippa Foot will have come out by the time this comes out, but she's also concerned with rules that would be sufficient to ground action. And in analyzing Hume, for instance, there was the question, okay, in general, it's good for utility that there be a culture of helping, but what motivates on Hume's theory me to actually help in that particular circumstance? There doesn't seem Hume just has to say, well, we just look morally askance at people who
Mm.
who violate that, and so that has to be. I mean, Foot actually I think ends up more or less agreeing with that. That the uh, how we define the human good, given that we are social animals, is that we will cooperate. And part of cooperating is actually having faith in other people so that I will do the right thing, even when narrowly construed, I could see, well, I'm going to benefit and probably, somebody else will help out. So nobody's going to be hurt by my not helping here. Another case occurs when positive condition. Each of us could, at some cost to himself, give to the others a greater total sum of benefits. And negative condition, there would be no indirect effects canceling out these direct effects. The positive condition often holds. If we are numerous, so does the negative condition. I'm not having a good. How are you picturing these negative conditions in the context of real examples?
Um, he's about to give an example in the next one, in the
Okay,
next paragraph. Why
so
don't we
let's
do
just
that, and then let's
sure.
see if we can piece it together. Yeah.
Yes, the positive condition
Uh,
often holds. If we are numerous, so does the negative condition. What each does would here be unlikely to affect what the others do. Okay.
all right. The commonest examples are contributors' dilemmas. These involve public goods, outcomes which benefit even those who do not help to produce them. It can be true of each person that, if he helps, he will add to the sum of benefits. But his share of what he adds will be very small, may be very small. He may not repay his contribution.
It may
It
not.
may, it may not repay his contribution. It may thus be better for him if he does not help. This can be so whatever others do. This can be so whatever others do. But it would be worse for each if fewer others help. And if none help, that would be worse for each than if all do. This is kind of what I just said, I think,
Hmm.
in a more accessible way, about the free riding example.
Well, and it does illustrate. So the negative condition, there would be no indirect effects canceling out these direct effects. So in other words, if people see me helping, they're like, "Oh, you got it covered." Then
I see. Um,
okay, let's just keep going. Some public goods need financial contributions. This is true of roads, the police, or national defense. Others need cooperative efforts. When in large firms, wages depend on profits, and it can be better for each if others work harder, worse for each if he does. The same can be true for peasants on collective farms. A third kind of public good is the avoidance of an evil. This often needs self restraint. Such cases may involve commuters. Each goes faster if he drives, but if all drive, each goes slower than if all take buses.
Hmm.
Soldiers. Each will be safer if he turns and runs, but if all do, more will be killed than if none do. Fishermen. When the sea is overfished, it can be better for each if he tries to catch more, but worse for each if all do. Peasants. When the land is overcrowded, it can be better for each if he has more children, but worse for each if all do. Any thoughts about these?
um, I don't think so. I mean, yeah. So these are cases in which, um, if we do something that's beneficial for ourselves, um, right? Something maybe selfish, maybe we can think of it as selfish, then we win out. We get the much bigger reward as long as others aren't doing that. But we lose big if everyone does as I do. Um, so we should just do the right thing and take the moderate reward. In other words, to go back to our chart. We all do the right thing. We get moderately rewarded for it, right? If I don't run as a soldier, I have a chance of getting killed. Much bigger chance, of course, than if I just turned around and uh, ran. But it's obviously, uh, you know, if we all did it, we'd all be dead. So if we all ran, we'd be dead or invaded or whatever. I don't
You
know.
need a
Do you have a better,
scapegoat.
more articulate way of putting that?
I'm thinking of all those old shows or cartoons where somebody's supposed to volunteer and everybody but one person steps back in unison so the one person is exposed. Uh, I don't know where that planning would have come in. Um,
Now I'm thinking of Homer Simpson backing into the bush.
uh,
We all
Yeah,
backed into the bush.
interesting that there's not a name right here because this is not, this is a many person version, but it's not the Samaritan's dilemma and it's not the contributor's dilemma because these are bad things. You are polluting the commons, and it would be better if you not do that. But it would be better for you if you're the only one to do that. So it's like, should I steal? That it would be better for me if only I steal, and therefore people are not expecting thieves. But if
Yeah.
everybody were to steal all the time, then like, well, it wouldn't work. People would be too on their guard. Their property wouldn't exist. Whatever.
Yeah. All right. I think it's my turn.
Yep.
There are many other cases. It can be better for each if he adds to pollution, uses more energy, jumps queues, and breaks agreements. But if all do these things, that can be worse for each than if none do. It is very often true that if each rather than none does what will be better for himself, that will be worse for everyone. Okay, I think we've covered it.
Yep.
Section 2. Each may be disposed to do what will be better for himself. There's then a practical problem. Unless someone changes the actual outcome,
Unless something
unless someone
changes.
changes, the
Something.
actual outcome will be worse for everyone. All right.
Unless something changes. So no,
Shit.
people are not going to change.
Oh my God. Unless something. All right, your turn.
Let us use labels. Each has
Oh
two
no.
alternatives. S is self-benefiting, A is altruistic. If all do S, that will be worse for each than if all do A. But whatever others do, it will be better for each if he does S. The problem is that for this reason, each is now disposed to do S. The problem will be partly solved if most do A, wholly solved if all do. A solution must be reached in one or more of these ways. So this is the tree. So the top portion of the tree, each might do A, and there are two options from that. So in other words, each
Let's just
might
say
do,
altruistic and selfish here to
yes,
not lose. Each might.
because selfishness, each might be altruistic either because selfishness becomes impossible, or because he becomes disposed to be altruistic. Uh, he might become so disposed. There's two possible reasons. Another branching. The first one is because the altruistic person would now be because altruism would now be better for him. Altruism might be better for him either because of a change in his situation or because of a change in him. So there you go. People do change.
All right.
But going back one step, he might become disposed to be altruistic, not just because it would now be better for him, but whether or not altruism would now be better for him. It may now be true either that because of this change in him, altruism would not be better, would not be worse for him, or that despite this change in him, altruism would still be worse for him. And each of these is labeled with a number. So, and we're gonna refer to these numbers. So each might do A because selfishness becomes impossible. That's number one. Somebody might become altruistic because altruism would be better for him because the change in his situation is number two. Because of a change in him is number three. Whether or not altruism would be better for him, it might be true that because of this change in him, A would not be worse for him is four, or that despite this change in him, A would still be worse for him is five. Okay, so A 1 to 4, the first four of these abolish the dilemma. The altruistic choice ceases to be worse for each. These are often good solutions, but they're sometimes inefficient or unattainable. We then need 5. That is, whether or not altruism would be better for him, it may be now true that despite the change in him, it would still be worse for him. So, right, people need to take risks. This solves the practical problem, but it does not abolish the dilemma. A theoretical problem remains. I'll turn it over to you.
In solution 1, the self-benefiting choice is made impossible. This is sometimes best. All right. Solution 1 where selfishness becomes impossible. Maybe because it's I don't know, against the
He's good.
law. It's not
Yeah, he's
impossible.
gonna give
All
us
right.
example here.
All right. In solution one, the self-benefiting choice is made impossible. This is sometimes best. In many contributors' dilemmas, there should be inescapable taxation. Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
But one would often be a poor solution. Fishing nets could be destroyed, soldiers chained to their posts. Both have disadvantages. Okay, so using force or the law or compulsion can help, but it's not going to help in every situation.
Give a hoot, don't pollute, or the owl will peck out your eyes. Threats.
There you go. Two is a less direct solution. Two being altruism becomes better for someone because of a change in that person's situation. Uh, selfishness remains possible, but altruism is made better for each. There might be a system of rewards, but if this works, all must be rewarded. It may be better if the sole reward is to escape some penalty. If this works, no one pays. If all deserters would be shot, there may be no deserters.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess legal penalties or benefits are what we're talking about here. We can either try to make something, the selfish solution, impossible, or we can change things circumstantially such that uh, doing the right thing is actually more beneficial to the person because of the way society is structured.
Yep.
Um, or doing the selfish thing is, I don't know, hurtful. But anyway, one and two are political solutions. What has changed is our situation, right? So yeah, we change these external contingencies regarding the law or society, whatever. But 3 to 5 are psychological, all right? So the alternative is not that we change society, but we change ourselves. That's my comment. It
Mm-hmm.
is we who change. This change may be solving only one dilemma. The fishermen might grow lazy. Fishermen might grow lazy. The soldiers might come to prefer death to dishonor.
And
Here are
there's an
four
asterisk that says footnote. Whenever I say fishermen, I mean fishermen or fisherwomen. That's it's not in there.
fisherwomen. Um, Here are four changes of a more general kind. We might become trustworthy. Each might then agree to do A on condition that others join in this agreement. We might become reluctant to be free riders. If each believes that many others will do A, the altruistic thing, he may then prefer to do his share. We might become Kantians. Each would then do only what he could rationally will everyone to do. None could rationally will that all do the selfish thing. Each would therefore do the altruistic thing. We might become more altruistic. Given sufficient altruism, each would do the altruistic thing. So we have trust. So the ways in which people might be changed psychologically in order to solve the dilemma, make them more trustworthy, make them reluctant to be free riders, make them Kantian, make them more dutiful, let's say, Kantians, or more temperamentally altruistic.
Yes. So you actually do use the woodsy owl, and you tell them to give a hoot. No, don't pollute because you'll be shamed. I'm now creating through this ad campaign a social ethic that makes you ashamed to go against the wishes of the nice Smoky Bear, Woodsy Owl. Pick your animal mascot.
Yeah. So we use the law or we propagandize people. No. Or
Mm-hmm.
we use norms, I guess maybe is the way to think about this.
All right, think of a good animal for encouraging people to become Kantians.
Um, what is the most rational animal other than human beings? Um,
A turtle with glasses. I mean, I think we're still with the owl. I
I
think
mean, I think
the
dogs are
albino.
consequentialists all the way. Yeah, well, maybe an eagle. Maybe an eagle is um, they're at least kind of a representative of the law in some sense. Yeah, what animals
Sure,
represents the law? But
we'll leave that for listeners to figure out.
Anyway, just to finish this part, these are moral solutions because they might solve any dilemma. They're the most important psychological solutions. All right.
Yeah, they're often better than political solutions. This is in part because they do not need to be enforced. Take the Samaritan's dilemma. It cannot be made impossible not to help strangers. Bad Samaritans cannot be easily caught and fined. Seinfeld notwithstanding. Good Samaritans could be rewarded. But for this to be ensured, the law might have to intervene. Given the administrative costs, this solution might not be worthwhile. It would be better if we became directly disposed to help strangers, or instead of using that effort that you're using to snatch people, just have public. I think this is what people point at, that we become less altruistic because, like, we have public institutions, we have a safety net. I don't have to do anything. Just go. In fact, I don't trust you if you're going door to door, for instance, begging, or like if you have the gumption to come to my door and ask me, or go out in public and beg, like, here, find the agency that is supposed to actually help you, because you could just be, feeding your drug habit or whatever. And they have the resources to weed out those that are just abusing the system.
Right. It is not enough to know which solution would be best. Any solution must be introduced. This is often easier with the political solutions. Situations can be changed more easily than people. But we often face another contributor's dilemma. Few political solutions can be introduced by a single person. Most require cooperation by many people. But a solution is a public good, benefiting each whether or not he does his share in bringing it about. In most large groups, it will not be better for each if he does his share. His own contribution will not make enough difference. This problem may be small in well-organized democracies. It may be sufficient here to get the original problem widely understood. This may be difficult. But we may then vote for a political solution. With a responsive government, there may even be no need to hold a vote. All right. I mean, all that seems clear.
Yep, I'm already gotten thinking about the dynamics of, like, small groups of we in the podcast. There are four of us. Who's gonna, like, do stuff? Who's gonna? I mean, if we all put our utmost into pushing forward, then we'd all go forward. But insofar as somebody is lazy and is not doing as much, then, well, unless we're being financially rewarded, then well, maybe I should do less too. And then, nothing gets done. All right. The problem may be small in well-organized democracies. It may be sufficient here to get the original. Oh, you already read that. Yes.
I already read that, yeah.
The problem here is greater when there is no government. This is what worried Hobbes. One example is the spread of nuclear weapons. Without world government, it may be hard to achieve a solution. Yeah. What do we think of it? It seems like it would be best for everybody if nobody had nukes, but it's worse for me if you have the nukes and I don't. So I better get nukes.
It's actually better for everyone if everyone has nukes. Because mutually assured destruction is the only way to prevent war. But
if everybody has nukes, somebody is in that case, I think, is the other theory.
Well, that's the problem.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, it's better for everyone up to a point, but then it means we all get destroyed.
It's better if all the responsible people have nukes, and then the rogue states do not have nukes. That we will keep the rogue states in line. As I parrot the words of the master paradigm. All right, the problem is greatest when its solution is opposed by some ruling group. This is called the dilemma of the oppressed. What's an example of that?
Well, if well, I don't know if women's suffrage is an example. Is it? It's about rights. The dilemma of the oppressed.
I mean, certainly even just some of the things we've just talked about, that if the as hard as it is to get people to be Samaritans, if there is a ruling class that is promoting like, no, don't help the poor because, we're social Darwinists, and I
Hmm.
deserve what I've got on top. And if you help the poor, that means like, well, I should be helping the poor too. You're making me look bad by helping the poor. So like, that's a good way to assure that poor people remain poor.
Hmm.
Such contributors' dilemmas often need moral solutions. We often need some people who are directly disposed to do their share. If these can change such a situation so as to achieve a political solution, this may be self sustaining. Without such people, it may never be achieved.
The moral solutions are then often best, and they are often the only attainable solutions. We therefore need the moral motives. How could these be introduced? Fortunately, that is not our problem. They exist. That is how we solve many prisoners' dilemmas. Our need is to make these motives stronger and more widely spread. Okay, so the motives exist. Let's spread them, enhance them,
The owl cannot give you moral
amplify them.
sentiments, but can only remind you of your moral sentiments.
Mm, there you go. With its wisdom, with its wise owl energy. All right. With this task, theory helps. Prisoners' dilemmas need to be explained. So do their moral solutions. Both have been too little understood. Interesting. So it's almost like he's been developing this justification for even talking about this prisoner's dilemma problem. So we have existing pre-theoretical moral intuitions or moral dispositions, but philosophy can uh, do some work for us here in strengthening our motivations.
Tables.
Specifically, if we think about the prisoner's dilemma, maybe that's what he's saying. I'm not sure. But I think it's your turn.
One solution is we saw a conditional agreement. For this to be possible, it must first be true that we can all communicate. If we are self interested, this would seldom make a difference. In most large groups, it would be pointless to agree that we will make the altruistic choice, since it would be better for each if he breaks this agreement. But suppose that we are trustworthy. Each could now promise to do A, to be altruistic, on condition that everyone else makes the same promise. If we know that we are all trustworthy, each will have a motive to join this conditional agreement. Each will know that unless he joins, the agreement will not take effect. Once we've all made this promise, we will all do the altruistic thing.
In cases that involve only a few people, such a joint conditional agreement may be a good solution.
So for the podcast, it is a good solution until the first person doesn't do the thing, and then there's just lingering resentment.
So what's going on? Who's not doing who's not doing what right now?
I think we've solved our problems well enough.
Um, but in cases that involve large sorry, yeah, actually, were you reading this paragraph?
Nope,
Um,
I just interrupted you.
oh, okay. I can't even remember. But in cases that involve large numbers, it has little use. It will take some effort both to enable all to communicate and then to reach a joint agreement. But the agreement is a public good, benefiting each whether or not he helps to produce it. In most large groups, it will not be better for each if he helps. To this contributor's dilemma, trustworthiness provides no solution.
I mean, isn't that kind of what like the Pledge of Allegiance is? Like you have these indoctrination things that are not really optional, but it makes people feel like they've agreed to, I will, uphold the standards and I will do my part in the group things. I will not be a free rider.
Yeah, I mean, he's saying in small groups we can make these promises, and if we believe that others are trustworthy, then we have a good reason to make the promise ourselves because we'll be benefited if everyone lives up to the promise.
I
Um,
guess it's the conditional character that you can't enforce in a large group. I can't say, I promise to lead the country so long as everybody else you know, upholds their part in leading the country.
I mean, yeah, in a large group, it's not like in the United States, it's not like you can send a contract to every single citizen and and know that everyone else is going to sign it, or whatever dynamic is going on in the small group where you've decided that you're comprehending every particular person's promise and um, assured assured by that enough to make your own promise. I think that dynamic falls apart at scale, and that just includes the mass communication requirement, which is not to
Everyone
say that you
must
can't propagandize and do all that stuff.
everyone must check the terms and conditions.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. But it's just that, what does it mean to make a promise in anonymity, right? Which is the way we, in a sense, do it if we're doing it among millions of people. Uh, if we are reluctant to be free riders, this problem is reduced. There is now no need for an actual agreement. All that is needed is an assurance that there will be many who do A. Each would then prefer to do his share. But a reluctance to free ride cannot by itself create this assurance. So there are many cases where it provides no solution.
The Kantian test could always provide a solution. This test has its own problems. Could I rationally will either that none practice medicine or that all do? If we refine the test, we may solve such problems. But in prisoner's dilemmas, they do not arise. These are cases where we naturally say, what if everyone did that? I'm not sure I get other than, yeah, there are lots of things that if we run it through the categorical imperative, like, what if everybody practiced medicine? Oh, then nobody would need me to be a doctor. They could all heal themselves. So I just won't be a doctor. Is that what he's talking about there? Or,
Well, I can't make so the Kantian test is not going to help me make important life
mm-hmm.
decisions. Um, is that what he's saying here?
I mean, he's trying to say it's not relevant to the prisoner's dilemma or in these many one.
Well, he says it could always provide a solution.
I mean, what is the one many issue in should I become a doctor?
I don't
I
understand that.
don't,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I want to be a free rider on those doctors. I don't want to become a doctor. That's a lot of work. I want somebody else to be a doctor and I want to just benefit from their work. Like, well, what's wrong with that? Like, that's called division of labor. You don't all have to be doctors. You don't all have to make your own shoes.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, a decision about whether to become a doctor you can't use a Kantian maxim
Mm-hmm.
or Kantian test to decide that, but that's not an ethical. Um, I'm not at that moment trying to decide on having something having to do with an ethical obligation. It's just about my aspirations. Uh,
I mean, it
it's
might be
unclear
that
why it applies here.
what about being a preacher? You know, that like it's not like somebody has to be a preacher, but you might feel like if I don't, who will? You know, I've got to, if we're in a situation where nobody is stepping up to be the spiritual leader, so I feel the obligation to do that. That seems like a related sort of dilemma, right?
Oh, so
Like the Samaritan.
someone's got to be a doctor.
Yeah,
Um,
for free. Maybe that's.
but I can't decide whether I should be that one.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay. I don't know. It's unclear to me, but
The fourth solution is sufficient altruism. This has been the least understood. Each altruistic choice benefits others, but in contributors' dilemmas, the benefit to each of the others may be very small. It may not even be perceptible. Some believe that such benefits make no moral difference. If that were so, rational altruists would not contribute. But it cannot be so. Consider the donor's paradox. Many wounded men lie out in the desert. Each of us has 1 pint of water, which he could carry separately, carry to some wounded man. But if our pints are carried separately, much of the water would evaporate. If instead we pour pints into a water cart, there would be no evaporation. For rational altruists, this would be a better way of giving. Each wounded man would receive more water. But the pint that each of us contributes would now be shared between all these many men. It would give to each man only a single drop. Even to a wounded man, each drop of water is a very tiny benefit. If we ignore such benefits, we shall be forced to conclude that each of our contributions is now wasted. Yep.
I don't quite understand this.
He's referring to an article by Jay Glover. It makes no difference whether or not I do it. He says a similar argument could show that when our acts may benefit our large numbers of people, we should not ignore very tiny chances.
Okay.
I mean, we're familiar with it.
I can go give my pint of water to one wounded man and see him drink it all up. Very satisfying. He gets a whole pint to himself.
Well, some of it will evaporate, according to this.
But some of it will evaporate. All right, he gets half a pint. That's still more than a drop.
You could still fill the bucket and then go to one person at a time and give a bunch of them enough water rather than one drop to each.
I don't understand why the water cart, which has no evaporation, gives only a single drop to each man.
Yeah, you just don't use it like that. Just
yeah.
I mean, certainly
I guess we, I mean, in one case, it's just I make a choice out of all these men, which one I'm going to help, maybe, or I could help a few, share the pint, but I don't get it. I don't.
I ask them about their family connections. What can you provide for me? I make them bid for the water.
Let's go up to the most attractive ones. I don't get it. I really don't understand this.
I mean, it's neighbor to something that's very familiar that we could call a donor's paradox, which is just that, as you've referred for utilitarianism, that, you should always jump in and save someone in a pond, a little child who's in a pond who's drowning. But what if you're in a situation where it's just all ponds all over the place? Like, you can't help everybody, so you might as well help nobody. Or how
in this case,
pick your battles.
Seems to be about giving a significant amount of help to one person or a few people, as opposed to just a tiny bit of help to a larger number. But in that case, I'm not sure what the evaporation is about, except that it encourages us to give to a nonprofit
or to cooperate. Yeah,
someone on the street or something. Encourages the cooperative effort. All right.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole fraud thing. If I give to some random person on the street, I don't know. Maybe they are a broker. Who's that? This is a criminal enterprise that I'm giving to. I need gift well. What did we give well to do their free research? All right, keep going.
Let us next subdivide the moral solutions. When some moral motive leads someone to do A, what he does may either be or not be worse for him. This distinction raises deep questions. But I shall simply state what my arguments assume. What is in our interests partly depends on what our motives are. If we have moral motives, it may therefore not be true that doing A is worse for us. But this might be true. Even if we know it is, we might still do A. I'm here dismissing 4 claims. Some say that no man does what he believes to be worse for him. This has been often refuted. Others say that what each does is, by definition, best for him. In the economist's phrase, it will maximize his utility. Since this is merely a definition, it cannot be false, but it is here irrelevant. It is simply not about what is in a person's long-term interest, self-interest. Others say that virtue is always rewarded. Unless there is an afterlife, this has also been refuted. Others say that virtue is its own reward. This is too obscure to be easily dismissed or discussed here. To return to my own claims, many prisoners' dilemmas need moral solutions. We must become directly disposed to make the altruistic choice. These solutions are of two kinds. Some abolish the dilemma. In such cases, because of this change in us, it is no longer true that it will be worse for us. It'll be worse for each if he does A. But in other cases, this is still true. Even in such cases, we might do A. Each might do, for moral reasons, what he knows to be worse for him. All right. Let me
Yeah.
just finish this. All right.
Yeah.
We often need moral solutions of the second kind. Call them self-denying. They solve the practical problem. The outcome is better for everyone. But they do not abolish the dilemma. A theoretical problem remains. All right. So it sounds like, yeah, we need not just a political solution, but a psychological solution of the most extreme kind, which is to say, one in which people are willing to do the right thing, even if they're worse off for it.
Yep. So we finished 2 out of, I see, 7 sections in here. Are you thinking we should do at least one more of these? Or is this
Yeah, I
interesting
think let's
enough?
do one more to see where it's going. Um, and I mean, yeah, I'm curious about where it's going now. I can't say that I've loved, I've loved
Yeah, I
this.
mean, the general question clearly, how is altruism possible, is one of the central questions in philosophy or in ethical philosophy. I mean, even by Hume's time, he's saying that uh, we don't need an explanation. It's easily possible. It would be some very strange uh, preconception about everybody being selfish to just deny that we have altruistic tendencies. So yes, people could just, their moral sentiments are such that even if they see that this is going to be a little worse for them, if it's going to help more people, right? That we have a general utility sentiment so that we do not always do the thing that will maximize my personal benefit, and no more explanation is needed than that. I mean, is that still enough of a live issue, or do you just are? I tend to think Hume is absolutely right about that, and so this is not asking why altruism is possible. It's just is almost silly at this point. But I guess it's I at least like the way he just went through these um, different theories of or ways of putting our, oh, everybody according to the economist will maximize their benefit. It's just you define benefit as whatever they maximize. It's merely definitional. It's not even
Hmm.
so that we can then have these theories that we run into in different philosophers of, well, yes, everybody is selfish, but what do I consider myself? I consider my family myself. I consider my community an extension of myself. So it's my moral circle becomes myself. So yes, okay, well, I do whatever is going to serve whatever's in the circle of my moral concern, which is, if you want to call that your expanded sense of self and thereby make everybody as selfish as definitional, then sure. I don't know. I at least find that move interesting.
I mean, he's talking about what's going to solve a certain kind of problem, right? And the problem is the prisoner's dilemma, and the
Hmm.
dilemma is how it is we can benefit, ensure that we benefit from cooperation when we know that we ourselves or another person can achieve a greater benefit for themselves, though a greater cost to others by not cooperating. Um, I mean, he's going to say at the end here, okay, this sort of altruism, the self-denying altruistic solution, psychological solution, right? That we're just disposed to do the right thing, even if it might not benefit us or even if it would hurt us. That solution in itself, he left us with a cliffhanger, is not going to be enough. There'll still be a quote unquote theoretical problem. But yeah, I'm a little unclear, what is the problem here and why does he think it theory is help? He spent an earlier part of the paper justifying the idea that thinking about this stuff could actually help us. In other words, that understanding the prisoner's dilemma might actually motivate people to choose better
Yeah.
solution with regard to the prisoner's dilemma. Maybe that's what's coming.
Well, at least you're usually not locked in a different room from the other people in the cooperative situation, like in the prisoner's dilemma's example, that you actually can. Or if you're going to be a prisoner, maybe you should communicate beforehand about this. Or
Well, I mean, that's part of his point, though, is communication at scale is not as workable as we
Mhm.
might think it is, I think. And that's why we just have to be disposed.
Well, and if they're
So I think,
simultaneous decisions, then right, how many times can I keep shifting? Like,
mm,
oh, I say yes, I will support this, and then you say, oh, okay, well, I'll put my money into it too, and then I'll be like, well, if you're putting your money into it, then I don't have to, so I take my money back. And then you say, well, if you're not putting your money in, then I'm not putting, and we have a little dance here where
mm.
that is more like the podcast effort model.
We could end up in a Mexican standoff, which is section 6 of this paper. It's my pet peeve in movies are Mexican standoffs. I think they cannot possibly exist in real life. We can't hold our guns on each other and say, okay, if you shoot me, then I'll shoot you because you'd be dead before you could ever shoot. I don't know. Is this related to Prisoner's Dilemma? It's so psychologically unrealistic. I cannot. It's just the point where I have to turn off the movie.
I It was part of a sci-fi series. I can't remember which one it was, but they're on Mars or whatever, and they're in a situation like that. And one guy has seen a lot of TV and is like, "Well, I'll cock my gun to show that I'm serious," because that's like what people do. And as soon as he does that, everybody shoots each other immediately
That's awesome.
because everybody else is an actual seasoned.
See, there you
Don't,
go.
you don't cock your gun. Uh,
Don't even raise your gun unless you want to start shooting.
I don't know if have you ever watched Traders, the Traders, this reality show?
Mm-mm.
I mean, as these things go, it's pretty good. But one of the and there's several different countries versions of it, so I sort of get confused of which season was what. But one of them was it's down to three people, and they're all traders, and they know they're all each are all traders, and they have to vote. At the end, they call it a prisoner's dilemma thing. Like, do you want to
Mm.
go for the treasure, or do you want to share the treasure? And if everybody says share, then they all get to actually share it. But it's exactly this thing. But it was like clear, like everybody knew that at least two of the people were just bastards, and there's no way that they
Mm.
were gonna say share. So like nobody got anything. That is
Mm.
how the whole season ended, because it was just clear we could not trust each other, and so nobody is gonna just do what they have to do to actually get some money. So that was fun.
Sad commentary on our society.
It's a philosophically rich show. I will
Right.
refer folks to my
Selfishness.
our pretty much pop episode about that. All right, thanks everybody.
All
Uh,
right. Thank
go
you.
subscribe to the public Close Reads feed, or better yet, go to patreon.com/close reads philosophy, and you can subscribe again using any of the podcast apps and get an absolutely ad-free feed. Or while you're there, why don't you put down a little money, and then you'll get this part 2 that we will be recording next week, because that's not going to be on the public feed. All right. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks.